Welcome back to Tabletop Tactics, where today we're talking about some of the best kept secrets in all of 40k. Things like what are the Tyranids doing over at Hive Fleet Tiamet, building a giant megastructure? What hideous Xenos can be found on the Halo stars? And what in Holy Terror's name is under the robes of a Watcher in the Dark? I am James Jordan, aka The Bard, and today I am joined by Katie Fode.
Hi.
Jinx.
Just Jinx.
Just Jinx. And Mr. Michael Headitch.
Hello.
El Chef Supreme.
If you're using a combination of Spanish and French.
It was cross-continental, very much just Europe. Speaking of mysteries, it's an interesting one today, because I feel like in the world of Warhammer 40,000 at the moment, we're being shown a lot more. We lived in a world where the biggest mystery of all time was what happened at the end of the Horus Heresy. What went down in that room with the Emperor Sanguinius and Horus? And now the end of the death is out. We know. They've told us. Bobby G's back on the scene. The Lion's running around again. And it seems to me more and more mysteries are being unveiled and shown before us in models or miniature formats. However, it's thick lore, Warhammer 40,000.
Thick lore.
And what we're going to do today is talk about some of our best kept secrets in Warhammer 40,000 and some of the best mysteries that still have been alluded to in the fluff or have been sort of very much at the forefront, like right in your face, but they're still like, we're not going to tell you what the answers are. So what we're going to do today is we're all going to go through what we think our favourite ones is. We've all brought something to the table, we've done a little bit of research, maybe we've got some quotes and stuff, but we're going to go through what some of our favourite secrets are and mysteries in Warhammer and sort of speculate then, will we ever get an answer? And do we even want one? But today we are going to start with Katie Fode. I know you've been buzzing to talk about this for a very long time.
I talk about this a lot anyway. I
very
feel
good.
like whenever I'm talking about mysteries, this is the one thing I want the answer to. And that is Hive Fleet Tiamet. And what the hell are they doing?
What are they doing?
So, Hive Fleet Tiamet, in case you don't know, they're a random Hive Fleet that are just hanging out on a planet somewhere. So to read from the 9th edition book, the 10th edition book, sorry. It's difficult to say when humanity first encountered the Tyranid menace. Some records suggest that humanity and also the Eldari of craftworld Eandon discovered a bizarre Tyranid megastructure on the Tiamat system. In the jungle world of Zeophora as early as millennium 35.
A megastructure.
A megastructure. This edifice is said to have spanned a continent and to have projected from its massive chitin and encephalitic tissue a horrifically powerful psychic signal that drove the Eldari into fatal seizures.
Okay, colour me intrigued.
Rumour has it amongst the Ordo Xenos that this structure and others like it remain to this day seemingly raised by the strange beast of Hive Fleet Tiamet for some as yet undisclosed purpose.
As yet.
I think this is going to be revealed at some point.
Okay.
Because there have been sprinklings in this through several different Tyranid codexes at this point. This is a very, very brief little conjecture based on what's been in other books. You've actually got some explanation. So the Eldari that have gone to explore the world, they literally have their brains explode because of this immense psychic structure that Tiamet are building on this world. And this is weird. This is weird Tyranid behaviour because we like to go out and eat things, not stay on one planet and build things.
You don't fortify the location, you eat the location.
You eat the location, exactly.
Rule one of the Hive Fleet.
I was going to say, my understanding of Tyranids is fine, nom, nom, nom.
Exactly.
So this seems all kinds of weird.
So there's a couple of theories about what's going on with this structure. And the first one is that it is a psychic beacon.
Okay.
To call Hive Fleets into the galaxy.
Yeah.
And essentially, one of the other theories is that the Imgal gene stealers that were originally found
Those are like the looking gene stealers.
were from Tiamat.
Okay.
Which would make them one of the earliest Tyranid encounters. So if they are a beacon, they could have drawn all the rest of the Tyranids here and continue to draw the massive Leviathan tendril to eat the rest of the universe.
It would be apropos that the first Vanguard Tyranid organism is actually quite literally the harbinger of destruction.
Yeah! Also, I like the fact that sort of Cthulhu-y looking ones are the ones that are just nondescript building something.
Yeah.
A beacon to the eldritch horrors from beyond the stars.
Exactly, because I think one of the cool things about the hive mind is we know it is warp connected. Right?
We have no idea where it came from or what it's doing.
But it's also like it just sort of is a presence. And I quite like this idea of that. Like normally the Tyranids are very much like they are fodder. Narratively speaking, they are turn up, Space Marines shoot them, or Guardsmen shoot them, and either win or get eaten.
I think there was an entire game or two about that.
There's been a couple.
Yeah.
But, but I like this idea of like almost that being like a big distraction. Mm-hmm. And then they're building, and also the phrase megastructure.
Megastructure. Now here's a second theory about what that could be.
Okay.
A gigantic Tyranid organism. Like a mega organism, something planet-eating.
That's cool.
He's stuck on a planet. See, if he's continent-sized, that to me immediately calls to mind the Imperial Palace, which is a continent-sized place, and it's a big old psychic beacon. Maybe it's something to counter the Astronomicon.
The Astronomicon.
The Astronomicon. Isn't one of the main... I mean, just end the show.
It's a big Tyranid drive-through.
There's just actually a pile of repertoires. Welcome to the Astronomicon. Can I take your order? Oh, yeah, I'll take a Space Marine platter, please. Isn't one of the
they're actually colonising.
Yes.
Isn't it like the Pharos or the big lighthouse from the Heresy that someone stupidly turned on? Brought the
it basically went it dug too greedily and too deep into the black.
They sent out a big old psychic beacon, and whoever turned it on just went like, everything just feels really hungry now. I'm sure that won't come back to bite us later. Hey, I'm on form today. But so maybe it's like you say, like their almost a bio version of that, where it's just like, the Pharos was great, but we'll do it properly. We know the frequency.
Yeah.
Because I guess also like what we understand from Tyranids is their ships are living beings.
Yes.
Yeah, everything
is alive. Like
so,
they don't create non-living
that
structure.
thing probably lives in a constant state of pain, just doing this to the sky.
The thing that explodes Eldari brains is actually just its scream.
Well, it's just a big old zone throat.
Yeah, exactly. It could just be a
very
big brain.
Obese zone throat.
It's the Doom of Malantai reborn.
Yeah.
Malantai, that's a
because also I guess we know from the Tyranids of like they adapt to whatever it is they're dealing with, and if they've come to consume the galaxy, they know like Space Marines, Imperial, all that stuff. They're like, well, they're all quite eatable. We've got that, but what we do know is like they don't really like demons and warp stuff.
No.
And they're a bit confused by that.
Yes.
So if they're like sort of slurping up Eldari brains and feeding it into a giant mega structure. Could it be their like anti-chaos super weapon?
That could be cool. It's also worth noting that Hive Fleet Tiamet they're kind of described to like be as tough as Diamond, like their Titan is as tough as Diamond. Things like that. They are defensive.
So they're more insular.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be like, I guess, like an offshoot of Kronos, who were created to fight demons.
Yes.
Because basically the Hive
They're the demon cleanup crew.
Like, what are these things? We can't eat these. There's no point being like in a fight with them. So just
this isn't fun.
This is lame.
It's designed to get them out of the way.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So maybe it's something like that. It's like the opposite. You know, I see, again, maybe it's something to do with like the Astronomicon or the warp. Because the shadow in the warp is the feeling of the hive mind.
Yeah.
But the hive mind isn't necessarily a warp entity.
No.
That's very true. Yes,
we don't like warp stuff.
Yeah.
We can't travel through the warp. We can't do anything like that. The warp is not happy.
They do everything.
I like how I'm saying we as if I am actually a Tyranid.
You're one of them.
You are the
now,
emissary,
Yeah. It's easy to go uprising.
So, you know, something like that, it's almost if that's a way of amplifying the shadow in the warp, so it
that's true.
blankets it further, or a way of just shutting down that segment, or, you know, but that's what's cool about it. Is you don't know.
I have a feeling we will know, because I've been looking through the book, and I've like I've said, Hive Fleet Tiamet has been sprinkled through different codexes throughout editions. They always mention it. Yes. And if you look at the different Tyranid wars, they've kind of gone through the colour schemes that have been in vogue. So you've had Behemoth, you've had Kraken, you've now got Leviathan. I wonder, the fact that they've kept dropping in Tiamet as something really interesting and really cool, the next one could be what Tiamet's doing.
What is the colour scheme for Tiamet?
That's the kind of the bluey, greeny one.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the really pretty one, which is like a diamond coating.
That is very cool.
It would make for a very compelling campaign supplement.
Yes.
I was just thinking that because they've just done, because they did the Prior Nexus again, and they've just done the Nachman Gauntlet again. So I imagine the one after that is going to be Caradron, because that will, not Caradron as in Sigmar, but Charadon, the Orc Nid one, which was, again, sort of going back to the
wall
9th
zones,
edition. But imagine if the next one was like Tiamat Assault or something.
Like that could be such a really cool way to turn the entirety of like the current
40k
lore is the thing that's been quietly happening in the corner of the galaxy. Tiamet?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, their plan's been revealed now. And it turns everything on its head. Because Kretman knows about them and he kind of has
Kretman's an idiot.
But he's kind of deemed them, we won't really worry about them right now because I'm too busy
trying to fix this problem.
Creating corn orc tyrannid mess.
Oh, Kretman.
Yes,
I love the idea of he's trying to desperately get back to very essential work on uncovering what's going on with Tiamat, but he's still just trying to undo his big mistake. What have I done?
They're never going to let me handle Tiamat after this.
Today's video is brought to you thanks to the support from our on-demand members. It's due to their amazing support that we're able to produce shows just like this one. As well as supporting the channel, our members get access to at least 2 additional battle reports every week, as well as full codex reviews, painting tutorials, 10 multi-episode narrative campaigns, all of our competitive 40k league games, and so much more. And we add to our library of content every single week. You can join our on-demand community today by downloading our app or heading to the website. And right now we have an introductory offer for new customers, so there's never been a better time to join on demand. Thanks for watching. Let's get back to the show.
The thing is they've got previous precedent. Like they have the Arcs of Omen, which was Vashtor, and this whole new here's something.
He just came out of nowhere, never mentioned before.
And a big bit of lore of just here's all these arcs that are these powerful
super
vessels.
Blackstones.
Exactly right. Yeah. And that was a really cool sudden ta-da! Here's something important for all the factions to fight over. What is cool about something like Tiamat is it's not just it affects, it's a Hive Fleet trying to eat Baal or trying to attack.
It's so
everyone's
different to what it should be doing.
Exactly, Chaos don't want that to happen because they're we quite like causing chaos in the name. You've got the Eldari that are it's been cooking our brains. The Space Marines are we can save the day because they are the main characters. It's cool that every single faction would have enough reason to be there. So if you're going to have this multi-faction spanning campaign supplement, it's a really good way of getting everyone invested.
Whereabouts is it happening? Does it say?
Is it galactic fringes?
The Tiamat system in the jungle world of Zeophora, which...
Because again, that's something else with the Tyranids is all the Hive tendrils and stuff, and then the tendrils themselves are obviously directed by the Hive mind, and there's loads of little quirks. One of my favorites about them is there's one. There's 2. There's one which is, the ones coming from the galactic south are doing this. They're going around this random space in the middle, and it's that's where the outsider is, because that was alluded to in this codex years ago. Yeah. And the other favourite is the entire Imperial Navy losing their minds because they're coming from below. Yes. And they're wait, what? You could do that in 3D space? That's weird.
It's a really cool, because a lot of the idea of the galactic map of Warhammer is on a flat plane of you have the galactic north, south, east, and west. And then this idea of that all the tendrils that are there currently are coming through the bottom
and they're
of the galactic
That's
map.
Weird. Why are they coming from the South Pole? You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, so everyone's sort of we can't, the idea of these being splinter fleets because they've broken off from the actual rest of it just being almost like a big hand. The Hive Mind's hand is going to crush the galaxy.
That's the thing, is people consider them as separate Hive Fleets, separate things, but they're not. They are all working together and specialising in their own ways to work.
Fingers of a whole hand.
Even
Cthulhu's grip!
Tiamat's going to explode and everything is going to be great.
Cool. Imagine if they did do a Vashtor style mega bug.
Yeah,
would be so cool.
But if they also did that kind of storyline with all the Tyranid Hive Fleets and then specialise them all out together, and Tiamat would be this incredibly psychic one, that would be really fun.
That'd be really cool. Different upgrade spirits for all the different types of Nid. That'd be so cool, man.
It is like G-Dubs has, they've seeded these sorts of things so that at some point they can just go, what can we, because they are way more accepting of moving the story forward.
Yes.
There was
100%, right?
There was always this thing in earlier editions and earlier versions of the game where it was the status quo was it's always like, 1 second to midnight, to use the doomsday clock analogy. It was always, the 13th Black Crusade was always about to happen, and then it was always it's like, well, it's happened now. Like, I remember when that happened. I was there when the deep magic was written. And
Cadia stood.
And it was just like, no, Cadia's dust. And everyone was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You can't delete Cadia. And they just went, well, we did. What are you going to do about it? Moving on. Primarchs are back. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And it was a really, nowadays you kind of go like, oh yeah, well, of course Fulgrim's coming back. Whereas I remember when they brought Magnus out and everyone was like, wait a minute.
It was like earth-shakingly cool,
yeah. And the argument of like, well, Demon Primarchs are known to be active, so that makes sense. And by the way, here's Bobby G. Wait a minute. And they've not shied away from actually going, oh yeah, the current 41st millennium is like set actually 400 years from, pretty much 8th edition, 9th edition, 10th edition have all been, this has all happened over the course of a couple hundred years. Pretty much 1st through to 7th was, this is like the twilight hours of the 41st millennium, whereas now it's like, no, we're moving on. So
we know like the Indomitus Crusade has been going for hundreds of years, because that's why veterans exist.
So it gives you that ability, or gives them that ability to go, let's just do this. Why? Because we teased about it 20 years ago, and it gives us the option to do whatever we want to move that story forward.
It's so
really cool.
It's really, really cool. And I think there was a world in which you used to hear about Angron as being like something almost like that level of superstructure, just unknowable entity.
And his retinue of 8 bloodthirsters that took an entire, what was it, all 600, all 100 Grey Knight Terminators and a Grandmaster to banish. And he just went, all right, I'll be back.
Yeah, if you haven't read The Emperor's Gift, give it a read, because it is actually like a whole chapter
when I roll the right dice, I'll be back.
Like a whole chapter. It was like he's such an unknowable force. And then now we have a model, and it's really cool. So they're not scared to do it. But speaking of scary things that live beyond the veil, Mr. Chef.
Yes.
The galactic fringes of space.
So the halo stars and just general weird Xenos-y stuff. So kind of...
Hell yeah.
Xenos. Which, ironically, the tendrils will have to pass through. Although I'm pretty sure that in some of the extra bits of the fluff, it's like, like here they come, round here, up, right there. But then it's like, the ghoul stars, then it's just like, nah, man.
Don't deal with that.
We're not going with that. Yeah. So like the entirety of the galactic fringes is surrounded by what is known as the halo stars. And they're really, really explored in like the RPG stuff. So like Death Watch and Rogue Trader.
Yes.
And there's all kinds of just messed up stuff there. So you've got things like the Halo devices, which are, this is like some ancient archaeotech that's like passed around between rogue traders and stuff like that. It's like, what does it do? It's like, it's just like some weird device. And it's embedded itself in my hand. I'm a vampire now. Like, but no, like an like Nosferatu-esque vampire, not some like, the Black Rage, I'm a vampire. Hey! It's full on like, I'm strong and fast and like my mind is so sharp.
You keep describing those blood angels.
Everything is amazing, but man, I'm hungry.
And steak
hungry.
Tastes like it used to.
Yeah, it's that horror hunger type thing, but it's also that addictiveness to it. And then they devolve into like feral. And it's like, who made this? And no one knows. And it's really weird. And then you get other things like the Rakgol, which are 8 foot tall, 6-limbed, white, stone-skinned lizards that replace their limbs with like biomech. And they literally, but they operate like Drakarian, that they just turn up and murder, and like no one survives their attacks. And then it's like, we've tried to communicate with them, and like no one understands their language. And there's like only records of them in like other minor Xenos races in this area of the galactic fringe. And this is all in the I think it's the Syraxis sector, which is the setting for like the RPGs. So like the Rogue Trader, like the and the Death Watch RPGs, not the current Wrath and Glory. I'm not sure where those are set. And it's just all manner of things like that, where it's like, like all the like the rogue traders going around there, and they're talking to like all these other little Xenos races, like really minor ones that the Imperium. Just let them get on with it until we need to purge them later, just to sort of please the ecclesiarchy. Well, we'll deal with them later, and they're just like, avoid the White Death, and they're like, wait, what? And then it's almost like the sort of the earth-based. So one of the things that I really love about like Earth mythology and things like that is something like dragons.
Yes.
The East and the West both have descriptions of dragons. Now they differ, but how do these descriptions go back several thousands of years before travel would have happened? Yes, I know the Silk Road and stuff like that. Yes, but why do they both breathe fire? Why are they like? This is the thing. You can't tell that from dinosaur bones. Dinosaurs. We don't need that. Stuff like that.
It's so cool.
Dragons were real.
100%.
Yeah.
Confirmed. But it's that kind of element of thing in the sector. So the Rogue Trader's like, well, it's a bit weird that non-spacefaring race has tales of this, and they do as well. Oh, there they are! Everyone's dead. And it's like no one knows what's going. And they're the kind of mystery like the Rangda from the Heresy, where it's like there's so many like in as vast of a galaxy as the Milky Way is in terms of the setting of 40k. We currently have like, 24 codexes, and 12 of them are some variant of power armor.
Yeah.
Xenos-wise, you've got, the Eldar, technically, like, the Drakari and Eldari
It's the same race.
They're one race. You've got the Tau, you've got Orcs, like that, and and that's it. You've got 5 or 6 races. Now they're never going to go like here's like 1,000 races.
Yes.
But there's all manner of things like the Rangda, the Enslavers.
I was about to say the Enslavers because I think it's that.
Well, they basically ended the Great War between the Necrons and the Eldar, and when the old ones just went, nah, man, just forget about it. We'll just come, and the Necrons just went. Oh, sleepy.
Yeah, we're tired. Couldn't fight a long time. But it's a really good point. I think like the Court of the Archon's a great example of like just bits of alien.
Yeah.
Like, because you got to think like the factions we have in 40k, the ones that are the biggest and the most militarized. That's the idea is they are at war with Space Marines. It's all booting off all the time. But like there's the Astorath book. The main villains are the Enslavers, which is really cool. It's like a just bad day at the office. They're not. This isn't a long spanning campaign, and it's just. They've turned up and like, oh, this is a weird alien thing we have to deal with. Like, and I think it's in the Leviathan, like the main rule book, or it's in the 9th edition rule book. There's a whole segment of like just weird artwork, like guardsmen fighting a weird mushroom monster. And it's like, you can imagine you go to any planet in the galaxy, it's going to have its own fauna and all the rest of it.
Think about early heresy and murder.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
I think 100% I believe what Tyranids.
Probably Tyranids.
And I think Ed once said this, and maybe we did this podcast with Ed, but a while ago, he was like, what would be cool is if there was a box you could buy of just almost like the house robots in Robot Wars, which is a box of just models you can put on the board that's like, don't go close to that nest because you're having a war, but you're on a desert and like,
Games Workshop actually did something like it was one of the, when I first started collecting, there was a series of rules on how to basically make your own Xenos creatures.
Yes, please!
I couldn't tell you what White Dwarf it was in. Someone in the comments will let me know.
We'll find it.
But it was like, and it was like you can make them small, medium, and large, and you can it was stuff like that, back when it was way more homebrewy, and White Dwarf just went, just kind of do what you want, build a land speeder out of an aerosol can, like whatever. Bunkers, just buy an egg carton, and and they gave you rules for things like the Catachan barking toad.
Yes, please.
Have you not heard of the Catachan barking toad?
No.
So Catachan is a death world.
Yes. Catachan's a great example. Yeah.
There are hundreds of things on Catachan which will kill you, but the Catachans themselves just go, they're very much a case of I fear no man, but that thing terrifies me because it's a frog that its entire evolutionary defense system is to explode.
Yes, please.
And it's called the Catachan barking toad because its warning is to just croak, but its croak sounds like a bark.
And it goes bang,
and then it explodes.
Amazing.
And it's just like because it's like filled with like volatile gases.
I was going to say, knowing Catachan, given they're like ride creatures through the jungle and stuff, I like the idea of when they inevitably, I hope and pray, if we've got Krieg, they'll do a Catachan kit at some point. Oh, Come on now, if you can have a little selection of throwable like.
Frog
bombs.
Frog bombs.
You mean like the arcane frogs that they just announced for Old World at time of film?
You've also got mole launchers for the Votan, so why not?
Why not chuck a couple of exploding frogs?
So it was things like that they gave you rules for as an example, and then they gave it was like, pick a list of stuff and things like that. So stuff like that could absolutely exist. You could absolutely do it as a homebrew, but in terms of like I don't want to see them as like, here's a new faction.
Tau is such a perfect opportunity for them to do it because it is the Xenos race that does
the coalition of other races.
It's a good way to kind of go, do you want your varieties? Do you want those crazy stuff in Warhammer? Here you go.
But
That'd be cool.
And stuff like that is what's, for me, really cool. And part of me hopes that they don't explore them too much. And given that those were part of the RPGs, it's not really canon.
Yes,
in so much as there is canon in Games Workshop stuff, because I think even they have said,
definitely fire cannons.
Nice, because but it's things like that where it's, you know, I mean, like stuff like the Rangda, where it's, you know, it's like, oh yeah, like the Rangdan warriors could go toe to toe with a Space Marine, like without breaking a sweat, and had better technology. I think one thing that would be really cool for Games Workshop to explore, to almost tie in with the heresy and these weird alien races, is to be like, here is a brand new alien race, and it's really creepy and odd. And guess what? They worship chaos.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of them.
Chaos Xenos.
Yeah.
Things like the Leia. Is it the Leia or the Leia? You know, the ones that basically went, hey, why don't you come to our temple, Emperor's children? It's definitely not slushy.
Yeah. Like all these different aliens all over the galaxy that have been around for millennia and have survived that long. They'll be exposed to the Chaos Gods at some point, because the Chaos Gods seem happy to be sort of like...
It's like, you know, the Chaos Gods love humanity because they have the biggest emotions.
Yes.
That's kind of their shtick.
Easiest
and it's
to
why...
manipulate.
Because they can't use the Elder anymore.
Yeah.
Because the Elder are so restrained and or...
repressed.
Have some sacrifices, please, she who first. Whereas the humanity is kind of a bit more open. The Tau have the greater good. The Orcs are just like, oh, we fight. The Necrons don't. And then you've got, you know, Votan who are just like, no, minerals, rock and stone. Of all these myriad races, not all of them would have been purged in the Great Crusades. So that gives them an opportunity to explore something really funky.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of the, I can't remember their name, but in the end of the first Eisenhorn book, where they go into, it's basically described as, they like go into this alien race's pocket dimension in the fifth dimension. And it's like, everything's geometric, but you know, that's...
The cube men.
But it is basically like, everything's, because it's sort of their chaos worshipy type thing. And it was like, everything's really weird because that square has 5 sides. What do you mean that square has 5 sides? It's got 3 sides. And everyone's seeing different things.
Freaking out,
And how you would translate that onto the tabletop, I have no idea. But I would love to see them go, this is something from the Ghoul Stars. They worship chaos in like its rawest form. Like they are pure undivided, but they're like proper, to use like something from like a trope, starfish aliens. So Tau are humanoid, Orcs are humanoid, Eldar are elves in space, Necrons are space Egyptians, dwarves in space. Like none of them are weird.
Proper wacky.
Outside of the Tyranids,
which are dinosaur bugs,
which are explicitly from beyond the galaxy. So to have something from within the galaxy and be like, what is it? It's a race of like cephalopod aliens, like squids, like weird stuff.
What could be really cool?
And the Ghoul Stars and Halo Stars is a perfect place to have that.
It's such fertile landscape for them. Like if you think about even the Tau, right? The idea of the Tau is that they were discovered during the Great Crusade, the heresy happened, so whoever was designated to be like, exterminate this race was just sort of like, we're busy, the ship's being called back, we'll deal with them later. 10,000 years pass and they come back and like, they've all got cycling ion weapons, this is a problem.
How did this happen in like 300 years?
They go back with the Damocles Crusade and it's like, oh no, they actually can fight back. But what would be so cool, especially if they're sort of exploring this like PvE kind of thing in Kill Team, imagine if during the next campaign they go crazy again, do something boarding action, but they did like a PvE kind of thing, which is like you take a unit or some like characters and your box is just loads of Gribblies that are all from different kind of planets. Like you can just go buck wild because then it allows them to do stuff that doesn't need to be troops, elites, tanks, transports to fit into competitive 40k.
It can just be like, create some weird stuff.
Here's like all the Necromunda stuff they do, right?
So they've already like released a box under this, like a box game under this name. But the perfect setting for that, for a PvE style game, Arenas of Comora.
Oh yes.
And you just go, and it's like what's in there? It's just like
everything they've captured.
Like, this thing, what is it? No one knows, but it's one of the beasts of the arena. Like, you know, and you know, then they can.
You can literally have,
and it makes perfect sense.
It'd be really easy to do because you can be like, hey, you know, a space marine, a Tau Cadra Fireblade, one of the
Howling Banshee,
a Howling Banshee,
so cool.
and like a Chaos Champion going. It's like, well, they have to. And, oh yeah, but they would never work together. It's like, well, if they want to get out of the arena, they have to.
Because you think
so
stuff like Blackstone Fortress has worked.
Exactly.
And the amount of kind of depth you got with that set of characters was so cool. And they seem keen on doing, like with the Dark Tide games and stuff, they seem happy to sort of expand how things work in the universe. It could be a really good way of being like, we can sell cool models and a PvE game mode that allows us to explore kind of anything we want. Like a big boss at the end is some giant octopus monster.
Whatever Kraken a building. Kraken Tiamet a building.
Kraken building. But do you know what I mean? It allows them to explore stuff without it having to be like, well, it needs to have a troop, a transport, a shooting unit, a combat unit.
Because they kind of did that thing with Blackstone Fortress where they went, oh, here's like, every single one of the playable heroes in Blackstone Fortress is a humanoid of some description. The weirdest one is XA1, the man of iron. No, definitely I'm an 100% an Adeptus Mechanicus robot, deaf to all flashbacks. And he was the weirdest one, but he's still humanoid. And then they just went, just have a Zote. And everyone's just like, a Zote? But it's still just, it's basically a lizard centaur. And it's like, well, that's a bit weird. But you've got things like the Hrud, the Sloth. Like, there's so much weird that they could do, which wouldn't work as a standing army, but they could do as just, we've made this model. Why? Because we can.
And it would then tie, because they seem keen to tie models to game modes. It'd be a perfect way of them just exploring a whole plethora.
Yeah, that'll be really
There you go. I'll take 5% of the profits. Thank you, G-dubs.
Now.
Go on, Jim.
We've talked about unexplored areas of the galaxy. We've talked about big bug aliens.
Hell yeah.
Now, it would be remiss of me not to mention my Imperium of Man, but I think weirdly, the Imperium is one of the things I feel like it's kind of like the spotlight's on it. Like most corners of the Imperium have been pretty well explored. But there is one little mystery that still to this day is the most fascinating thing to me, and it's the reason why they're one of my favourite chapters, and I hope dearly that we never find out what they are. But what are the Watchers in the Dark?
They're just two little dudes.
What are they doing?
Well, guys.
They're little Jawas. That's it.
It's so good because they are basically just little space.
They're just chilling.
Little Space Marine Jawas.
Help out.
But also, what I love about it, and it's something I've always loved about the Dark Angels, you look at if you go into a Games Workshop, you've got this wall of all of these Space Marines that's all like Space Marines in yellow, Space Marines in red, Space Marines with jump packs, Space Marines riding wolves, Space Marines with little Jawas with them, Space Marines with like, wait, sorry, what?
Tell me more of these Space Marine Jawas.
Like,
have they done a plushie for a Watcher?
I think they have. I think they've done a plushie for a Watcher.
But the thing is, I love it because you've got the Grand Master of the Dark Angels, Azrael with his sword and his combi gun, but he's like, I can't be bothered to carry my helmet. This little robed alien's gonna do it.
But what's so cool about that is they're Space Marines. They are not meant to be okay with things like Watchers in the Dark.
Exactly, Katie.
That's completely antithesis to what a Space Marine is.
So isn't it, so, because my knowledge of the Dark Angels is very, very low, other than the old school joke of Tament for tomorrow you die. All right, see you tomorrow then. And it's things like that which are obviously stem from pre-heresy, and it's like, well, the Watchers have always been here. It's like, they shouldn't be okay with that. Well, there are no walls on Fenris as well. You should be okay with things like, vampires, James, and yet you are. So the Space Marines will always have weird stuff like that. But don't they come from, like, they've always just been on Caliban, and everyone's just like, yeah, it's fine, just chill.
The diminutive hooded attendants that cluster around the highest ranking warriors of the Dark Angels have long been a mystery to onlookers. Yes, they have. These are the Watchers in the Dark, but none can say for certain what manner of creature lies beneath those robes. Whatever they are, they speak no words. Their presence is solemnly accepted by the Dark Angels, if rarely visibly acknowledged. They appear like some omnipresent manifestation of guilt, a burden clothed in monastic robes that glides closest to those privy to the chapter's most terrible secrets. If this is so, then ominous significance may be read into the creature's increased manifestations since the return of Lionel Johnson.
Utini.
What is going on? It's so cool because I think it's one of those things of that you get. The reason why I love them is they're just there. They've never tried to explain away what they are.
They just exist.
They've done enough dangling of, like you say, if you read the old books about old Caliban, they've always been on Caliban. They've been this weird anti-warp thing, which I'll get onto in a moment, that just hates chaos, inexplicably hates chaos, or is something to do. I think they were the guardians of some like old, like chaos entity that was like, well, we need to keep this safe.
Because isn't Caliban like essentially the theory is it's full of chaos beasts?
Yes,
like
so
that's
all the creatures.
that's what all the creatures are on Caliban.
Lions of Caliban are big old warp demons.
And they used to try and eat the Watchers, and then
That's
obviously
how you become a Caliban knight is by going off and killing a
fighting
beast,
one of the lions.
correct?
And then
I think so.
and then obviously the lion himself turns up with the Emperor, and the Knights of Caliban get founded, and all the rest of it. And then the Watchers are like, we'll hang around with you. And now
you guys hate chaos too. We should be friends.
Given the Caliban went explodey because of some nondescript reasons. The rock now is what's left of Caliban, like a big floating asteroid.
Yes.
So obviously the Watchers of the Dark are just sort of there. Now I'm just going
We're stuck.
Well, this is the thing, like, they have attached themselves to the Dark Angels, and the Dark Angels specifically. Now, some people wonder if it's, like, weirdly the Lion's innate, a lot of the Primarchs have a psychic presence. They are warp entities.
You reckon they're like psychopomps?
Well, exactly. Are they part of, like, he doesn't know how to utilise them, but they are manifestations near
of him?
Because when he turned up, because I was genuinely thinking when they redid the Lion, and when they redid Azrael, I was like, surely the Watchers are going to be one of those things that kind of is like an old hammery kind of thing.
The Lion is actually 12 Watchers in a trench coat.
I mean, maybe. But do you know what I mean? Like the kind of all the feathers and the sort of the old kind of artwork of the kind of Native American association with the Dark Angels has been shifted into more of a knightly manner.
Yeah, all that kind of part of their heritage has been.
I wonder if the Watchers were going to go that way as well. Like a lot of chapters have lost their kind of weirdnesses. Like no one really talks about the fact Space Marines spit acid anymore.
Yeah, it's never something that's ever been utilised because it's just a bit weird.
They eat brains to find stuff out about what they've killed. These little Space Marine tidbits have sort of disappeared because it's a bit 2000 AD. And I thought which I do love by the way, the Watchers would go, but I loved that every new Dark Angel release. Like, no, there's really
more Watchers.
More Watchers. I'm like, okay.
More Watchers, more the time.
Now, I believe this is from, I think, something Russ. I can't remember the name of the exact book. Legend of Russ or Champion of Russ. There's a book where Chaos and Tzeentch are trying to get the Dark Angels to kill off those Space Wolves.
Yeah. I don't know what novel it is, but I know that part of it.
It slipped my mind. Pop-up will tell me what I'm trying to tell you. And basically, there's a bit in it where a changeling is running around the rock. I think
the changeling.
The changeling.
There's only one.
Dressed as Azrael, like he's recreating Azrael. Yeah. And he's running around causing all kinds of mischief, like opening doors, shooting things, like they're all going to think it was the Dark Angels. Then,
everyone trusts the Dark Angels.
He then comes to a complete stop. The changeling. There was something at the far end of the cell corridor. The changeling could not so much see it as sense the absence of the ether around it. Ooh. To the demon's warp sight, this thing was really an unthing, a black void without tangible thoughts or emotion to define it. The demon tried to look upon the unthing with Azrael's flesh eyes. It was diminutive in size, its form hidden behind the thick folds of a bone-coloured cloak, as though in imitation of the lion's sons. The shadows beneath its deep cowl were utterly impenetrable, as dark to mortal eyes as its sole presence was to the changeling's warp vision.
So it's a warp blank.
What is it?
And it's like, doesn't it later in that, I don't know if you got that passage. Are you going,
The changeling found itself taking a step back, the demon's flesh quivering. Fear was something the changeling could not feel, only feed upon. But the sight of the unthing watching him from the shadows caused the demon an undefinable, icy discomfort.
Oh.
Hell yeah!
So it's like, they're like...
indeed!
Because obviously there's things like blanks in... it's so exciting.
It's green as well.
Oh, nice.
Please continue, Chef.
I'm a watcher.
Look upon me in icy discomfort.
So you've got like things like the blanks, and you've got stuff like Blackstone. Yeah. All stuff that like nullifies the warp. Like the Catan don't nullify the warp. Yeah. They warp reality itself. So they're like physical versions of demons, sort of. And you've got all that kind of stuff. What are they? Are they blanks? Are they just actually their Blackstone puppets?
I quite like the theory that they're psychic manifestations of the lion. He doesn't even realise.
Yeah, like his innate ability,
his hatred of chaos.
Yeah, and because also there's a bit.
But they were on Caliban before he arrived.
They were indeed. So are they manifestations from
There
the
are no
Empire?
watchers on Caliban.
Yeah, exactly, right? And there's a cool bit in The Sons of the Forest where the lion's like surrounded by obliterators and he's got no weapons and he's like, I can't believe this is how I'm going to go out. It's very embarrassing. I'm the lion. And then he turns because he hears a noise and he looks and it's like a wall. And he's like, can't go that way. It's a dead end. Then he always hears like a, oi, effectively. And he looks again for no reason.
Hey, boss!
And it's two watchers with a wooden door just being like, come through. And he's like, okay. So he runs off while he's getting shot at, opens the door, and they just present him fealty, his new sword, give it to him. He unsheathes it, closes the door. The door's gone, but he now has a sword, and then kills the obliterators.
Maybe he enhances their power.
Maybe.
And that's why they're attached to him.
Now, the thing is, right, and this is to round us out, okay? I really want to see more stuff from the Halo stuff. I want to see this box with the PvE monsters. I want to know what's going on with Hive Fleet Tiamet.
I want them to explode and destroy the universe.
But do you know what I don't want to know? I don't want to know what the Watchers are.
Yeah,
I want to ruin it.
I think
Yeah,
there's
right?
so much that would be ruined by,
Yeah.
like, I mean, now,
Precisely.
I'm not the biggest fan of the heresy. Sacrilege, I know. But I was always of the opinion of how are they going to write the end of the heresy? Because one, you already know it, but also you kind of don't. But do you need to?
Yes.
And the way that they did it, I mean, because you've read it and you've said like, it was great.
Yeah.
And I've also seen people going, it was terrible. And it's almost like our expectations
Yes.
are so high. And there's an element of that in 40k where, you know, it's like with the missing Primarchs.
Yes.
The whole reason for the missing Primarchs is so that you can,
Create your own legions.
back in the days, so that you could have written your own legions.
Yeah, right.
Whereas nowadays, like, they've alluded to it in varying different ways. So there's a bit where they talk about, I think it was towards the end of 7th edition, where one of the, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, but someone was like, beneath the, you know, in the black vaults of terror, and they walk past two pedestals, one emblazoned with a 2 and one emblazoned with a 17, and everyone's like, oh my god, they've done nothing with it in like 10 years. There's a bit at the end of the Devastation of Baal where Sanguine, this is pre-Primaris Dante, is just like, you know, there on the flash, he's just going like, I have failed my father, I have failed my son, blah, 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 blah. And then the Sanguinor appears and just like, oh, don't worry about it, lad. Like, it's all right, my son, and then walks off. And he's like, wait a minute, what? Never explored it again. And it's stuff like that, which Games Workshop is obviously doing it because, one, they've got the ability to just go, let's just make a mystery.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just, as long as they don't do like, you know, Lost stroke Star Wars sequel mystery box type nonsense where it's like, but the mystery is this, but what's inside the box? Another mystery!
Yeah,
You know, it's like they remove the
hood and it's another hood.
yeah, it's like, you know, so that sometimes like the unknown is better because your brain fills it in, but also then that means that when certain things become known, your brain goes, yeah, but
I would have liked to have been.
I would have liked to have been.
Yeah.
It's like, so to use the Votan as an example, they released them and they've released them as a very small range. And I really love what they've done with the whole idea of, like the Votan actually are giant AI.
Yeah.
And some of them are going a little bit squiffy.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. The leagues of Votan, whatever their actual race name is called, I'm going to call them the Demiurge because that's what they used to be called back in the day, i.e. Post-squat before love, pre-love, the good days. But there's so much that people were like, this is really cool, but I would have liked to have seen this. And this is just from like a model and a rules perspective, let alone a lore perspective. And I think the lore especially is something that is so, because there's so many like mysteries and things which don't need to be answered.
100%.
Yes. And there's so much that I think would be ruined by it being answered.
Precisely.
So I'm just looking across the thing. I'm just looking at the Harlequins, the Guardians of the Black Library. It's like, where's the Black Library? You don't need to know.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't matter. What's in the Black Library? It doesn't matter. It's not. That's not the point.
Yes.
Like,
And the point of it is you're not meant to know.
Exactly.
The
You know,
whole
there are
thing
things that
is-
man was not meant to know.
It's like,
Cryptman.
yeah, like with
Stop messing things up.
genuinely with the Tiamat mystery. Is it something you do want to know, or do you like the idea of it just being like, it's cool that the Tyranids have a like...
I really don't like. I don't know, to be honest, because I've
isn't it?
seen it every so often. Well, not every so often. I've seen it in every single codex because I do, and this is a reason why I love buying the codexes. Is that I love the lore in it.
Yeah.
Because you do, and it's been sprinkle fed there are all these codexes, and it's just making my curiosity burn
Yeah.
more and more and more. And I just want to, I think I do want to know. Yes, I want to know.
Yeah.
Make Tiamet the next galactic threat.
Nice.
I want it to happen.
Yeah.
But the next major Hive Fleet.
Yeah, please give me my
Please.
Tiamat. I think, I do wonder if, like, speaking to a friend of the channel, Mr. Sam Weeks, like, I'm one of those people that I loved what they did with the End of the Death, but I would happily have not known.
Yeah.
And even, I've discussed it with Beard. He was like, I would have hated to have got all the way to the end of all of the books of the Heresy and it not end. Just to be like, and Finn.
No one knows what happened on the bridge that day.
If you're going to start with the Heresy, you kind of have to finish the Heresy. But what I like...
Finish what you started.
Exactly right. But what I love about the Watchers and why I kind of love the fact I don't know, but do want to know, but also don't want to know, is that they're just always there. They're not too much. They're not a Deus Ex Machina. They just do the thing. If they were more narratively integral, they're a bit like, you probably do need to explain what they are. They can't just be like, and the Watchers appear, which I'm worried they're starting to do a bit more now. But I like the fact they're just these little guys that are there.
Because there's some really, really cool things, like both from ancient, like deep, thick lore and like modern lore. I'm going to use the Votan again as an example, because one of the common theories is that, like some of the Votan, if not all the Votan, are basically just men of iron.
Yeah, gone into hiding.
They've gone into hiding. It's like, that would be really cool. But do we really need the men of iron? I don't know. Like,
is that better as an unexplained footnote in the history of man, right?
Almost like I saw something recently where someone was saying, like, now that the Heresy is finished and like the Heresy game is still there, but eventually that's going to reach its zenith, because eventually they'll release a Emperor model and they'll have, and it'll be, and it's like, you know what, it's fine because we all know what the Emperor looks like.
It's not allowed.
But like, do you need the Emperor stat line? Probably not, from a rules perspective. But then people are like, but what could they do next? And some people say, I'd love to see like the Unification Wars, Thunder Warriors and the G War.
Cool.
And like, would it be cool? But do you
from a lore perspective, that would be really cool.
But do you need to know rather than just, I'd love to know more about the Dark Age of technology? It's like, but isn't that what makes it intriguing, is that you'll never know? Like, to reveal it, I think would then be like,
I think,
well, that's really cool.
I think sometimes
why don't we have a thing about that?
Yeah.
Like,
I think sometimes it's more fun to try and piece the pieces together yourself and try and come up with and theorize and create stories about what you think it is and piece together these different bits of lore from different codexes and books and all these different things than it is to actually know the answer.
100%. It's more fun not knowing sometimes.
Sometimes.
I really want to know what to do.
But it's a very good
If someone in
point,
Games
Katie,
Workshop can just tell me like a little secret, I won't tell anyone. I just want to know.
But then like you come in one day, you was really sad, and it's like, what ails you, Katie? It's like, they tell me the secret, and I'm sad. But yeah, I think it is that thing of like sometimes you are better not to know. Secrets are fun. They're spooky. They're mysterious.
Dark Angels.
Like the Dark Angels and the little ones in the dark. So I think it's important sometimes to keep some secrets. And I think as this world expands, we get more and more cool stuff in 40k. I just hope they keep some of these secrets secret, because if you keep it secret,
you keep it safe.
Yeah! Thank you very much for joining us, guys at home. Pop in the comments your favourite secrets, and if you think you have some answers to secrets, you might be like, I am personally a watcher in the dark.
Tell me about please.
So I am Mr. James Workshop. The watchers are they're actually little puppies.
Spoiler warnings in the comments.
Battle mutts.
But yes, spoilers in the comments below. Don't ruin it for other people if they don't want to know something.
Some spoiler warnings just in case it's like, in this bit, just in case. And book recommendations as well. If people want to read up on this stuff, like we could be one big hive mind, and we can figure out all this.
Explode the elder brains.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining me, guys. Thank you to Mr. Michael Hebditch, the chef.
Thank you.
And thank you to the Queen of Tiamat, Katie Fode. I have been the Watcher in the Dark, aka Mr. James Jordan. We have been Tabletop Tactics, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.